I'm Rod Will. I'll be presenting on behalf of the Terrestrial Water and Carbon Dynamics Group, or TWCD. Our goal is to collect and calibrate data necessary to inform land management decisions to increase water yield, carbon storage, and productivity. We'll be providing the basis to address wicked problems associated with water and carbon in Oklahoma. Here's our team. It's a collaborative group effort between OU, OSU, and NRI. And probably the biggest thing we've done this year is to expand our team to include a number of master's students, PhD students, and postdocs. We have 4 tasks: to quantify water and carbon dynamics across Oklahoma, to determine trade-offs between ecosystem carbon uptake and water loss, to determine the effects of woody plant encroachment on terrestrial carbon and water, and to measure impacts of adaptive versus prescriptive management as it relates to soil microbiomes and nutrient cycling processes. I'll go through each of these tasks and associated aims that relate to years 1 and 2. We have additional aims that I won't cover that begin in year 3 and later. But task 1, quantify terrestrial carbon and water across Oklahoma. Aim 1 was to develop the Oklahoma Land Water Observatory to measure carbon, water, and energy fluxes at selected sites. In year 1, data have been collected from eddy flux towers in El Reno, and also the version 1 of the annual forest map has been developed at a 30-meter spatial resolution. Year 2 will continue to collect data from the eddy flux towers and further refine that map. Aim 2 is to develop the Oklahoma Land Water forecasting capacity to predict carbon and water across the entire state. Accomplishments year 1 were to evaluate the VPM model using eddy flux data, then also to assess the spatiotemporal changes in winter wheat using remote sensing the years 2008 to 2018. Year 2 will be to continue with the modeling efforts and also continue with the work with winter wheat to expand the data and the analysis from 2019 to 21. Okay, task 2 is determine the trade-offs between ecosystem carbon uptake and water loss. And we've been doing this at the watershed scale, measuring water yield as well as productivity. We've done this year 1 at prairie, oak forest, red cedar woodland, switchgrass watersheds. We've looked at net primary productivity, evapotranspiration, and water use. Year 2 will continue to collect data for the 2021 growing season and complete that analysis as well. Okay, aim 2, related to task 2, is to understand ecohydrological control of carbon and water at a shorter time scale that incorporates S2S weather patterns. And to do this, we've been looking at eddy flux, which measures soil moisture, carbon, and energy flux in both a grassland and switchgrass site. In year 2, we'll continue these measurements, and we're currently installing a tower in an oak forest, and we'll begin measurements in summer 2021. Task 3 is determine the effects of woody plant encroachment. And specifically here, we're talking about eastern red cedar. In year 1, the sites have been identified and verified and visited. These sites are across Oklahoma. In year 2, we'll be measuring soil carbon content, soil moisture, above ground biomass, and litter. Also related to this, aim 2, we'll be looking at the effects of eastern red cedar encroachment on soil mycorrhizal fungi. And this is critical to understand soil carbon and soil carbon dynamics. We'll be using the same sites as in aim 1. And this year, coming year, year 2, we're measuring the arbuscular mycorrhizal colonization and associated processes. Then lastly, task 4 is to look at adaptive versus prescriptive management of Bermuda grass and native range on soil microbiome and nutrient cycling. 2 sites have been identified, both pasture, Bermuda grass, and native rangeland, and the plots have been identified as well. So accomplishments in year 1, in addition to identifying the sites, soils and vegetation have been sampled. In year 2, this will continue and focus on microbiome. And then the grazing treatments will begin in spring 2022. So we've got lots going on, and some of the work we do will contribute to larger efforts, and we look forward to years 2 and beyond. I'd be happy to answer any questions.